Welcome back to the Blunders rating climb where I spin a wheel. It tells me which mistake I need to make, and then we try to come back after making that mistake. Ooh, blundering the queen today. All right, that one just kind of permanently stays on the wheel, at least for now. We'll see about in the future. Blunder queen is going on the list, and there we go. All right, let's jump into a game. Let me hide the wheel so you can actually see. We're playing a 560. And one of the best ways to blunder a queen is to start using it early on in the game. There is a movie I like, Searching for Bobby Fischer, and he's playing in this really important tournament. Well, I don't know how important it is. He's playing in a big tournament, and he's in like the final game against one of the stronger players, and he's trying to decide whether to bring out his queen or not. He's had two different coaches. One of his coaches says, no, don't bring out your queen early. The other one was like, just be aggressive, use the queen, And he's trying to decide. He ends up bringing the queen out and losing it to some tactic, right? And then he has to like come back later in the game, and it's a really good movie. But this is usually a bad strategy, right? Bringing out your queen, just trying to do random checks and just take whatever you can. Like most of the time, you're going to make a mistake and lose your queen if you do that. Sometimes you don't even make a mistake; it just like gets trapped, right? So I'm just gonna go crazy here and just take as much as I can, and let's just see what happens to my queen. Let's just see. Sometimes you can get away with it against low-rated players because they don't really know what to do, but if you play this way against a stronger player, they're going to make you pay for it, right? Okay. I am going to... Should I let it get captured here or keep... Let me go for this because now I'm lined up with the bishop. There might be some really powerful knight b5. Looks like a really great move for our opponent. Hitting the queen, jumping in with the knight. It's defended by the rook. Maybe even rook b5, attacking it that way. Could be an idea. Let's see what they're going to do. Well, this is smart. They're thinking, they're taking their time. They think they realize that like this is probably not a good strategy, and they're trying to figure out how to punish me for that. And they bring out their own queen. Okay, so I'm just going to keep doing it, and at some point I'll let them take it. I'm just going to play a little bit longer, try to play moves that I think a normal person might play. You're just bringing your queen everywhere. Let's say we go here to attack. I don't know why. It's obviously a bad move. Okay, and he does see it. Okay, cool. So that's why you don't bring out your queen early, because it's very easy to make a mistake. You blunder it somehow, you miss one little detail, and now you're just down a queen. So how do we recover? Well, I always like to identify what is the biggest threat in the position. This is a threat, but it's probably not the biggest threat. Maybe there's actually a sacrifice, so that's something to think about. This is well defended. This is attacked, but it's also defended. He doesn't have an extra piece supporting the queen. The knight could jump forward. Actually, that looks very dangerous. So this, as well as the potential sacrifice, what I'm thinking is if they sacrifice and I take back, the queen's going to come in, and then I lose my rook, right? So what move can I play that deals with that and also deals with the knight? I think c6, right? We stop the knight from coming in, and we stop the sacrifice. So it seemed like the best move. And you might say, but you're not developing. Sometimes when you're on the defensive, there are really critical squares on the board or key ideas that your opponent has that are top priority, even above developing a piece sometimes. And I think that's what's going on here. Like this knight and this rook and queen are just such a powerful combination that c6 just seems like the best move I could play. d4. Okay, so what's he trying to do? Let's out the bishop. Okay, I'm not super concerned. Maybe he wants to push and undermine this pawn. That's kind of annoying. So I'm thinking about playing e6. Now, I don't love that it blocks my bishop, but my bishop is stuck at the moment anyway. I can't really go here. It just gets captured. Also, if I do move it, this gets captured. So it's kind of awkward, but I'm going to go ahead and play e6. At least we stop anything here. We stop anything here. And we let out this bishop, which actually does have a nice square that it can go to here on d6, I think. Okay, rook d1. So I want to develop some pieces. Obviously, this one is stuck for now. So let's focus on the knights and the bishop. Normally, I would say knights before bishops. But here I'm losing a pawn. Here I'm blocking my bishop, which is awkward. Here I'm going to the side of the board. Also, he can capture and mess up my pawn structure. I don't really have a great move with this knight. So that leads me to probably one of these two pieces, right? We can move this knight to set up bringing the knight here. I think that makes sense. So definitely knight d7. Knight a6 doesn't look very good. He can take and then just totally mess everything up. So so we talked about this knight and then the bishop. If I want to trade, but I don't want to trade because I'm down material, bishop d6 looks like a good square. And also bishop b4. I like bishop b4 because it puts a little bit of pressure on my opponent. Now, it's not that much because it's already defended. But if I'm able to pair that with maybe my knight jumping here, we might be able to make something happen. So I'm definitely torn between these three moves. I think I will go with the pin and see what happens, right? Because now the queen is kind of tied up, which I like. I like tying up my opponent's pieces, especially the big ones. If he tries to move it somewhere, you know, I just take this guy. And one more thing. Even though I'm down a queen, I did get these two pawns with my queen, right? Before I lost it. Which means I do have a pass pawn, this a pawn. And white's pieces are not exactly positioned to stop it. And so as crazy as it might sound, I think a valid plan might actually be 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. 5 moves to push the pawn. Now, I don't know if that's the best. I'm going to see what white does. Maybe I should make some more developing moves. But again, it's like sometimes you just have to identify the most, your best opportunity, right? I mean, of course, if my opponent plays all the best moves, I'm going to lose regardless. This is a losing position. But probably they'll make a mistake somewhere along the way. What's going to be my best chance to make them make a mistake? And I kind of feel like just pushing this pawn maybe is a good thing. There's not any immediate threats that I have to deal with. I mean, of course, I could develop, but then if they take, I'm probably going to have to come back with my bishop. Of course, knight d7 looks like a relatively nice move, but I really actually do like this, so I'm going to play it. And if we get the pawn to here, it's defended by the bishop. It's got support from the rook. That's a constant threat that white has to pay attention to, right? So here we go, a5. One thing you'll notice about lower rated players is sometimes they will waste a lot of time. And I think that's what we're seeing our opponents doing, right? They move their rook here, which they didn't really need to do to defend the knight. It was already defended. Now they're moving their queen again, but not really attacking anything. I mean, these are already defended. I don't really see a clear threat there, right? And they should have been probably developing their pieces and castling. So I'm gonna push it again, right? And now I'm only 3 spaces away. So now it gets interesting, right? This pawn could be a very good asset for me. I'm not sure if they're trying to set up some sacrifice. Okay, they just want to bring their knight and castle. Okay, that makes sense. That makes sense. I'm going to push it again. So, like I said, now I have this threat. Now, if I push it again, it's going to be attacked by the knight. The rook's going to come over. It might be too far. I like where it's at right now because it's got 2 pieces defending it. So I feel like that's a pretty solid place for it to be, but also it is a threat that my opponent has to worry about. Okay, so I think we've done as much as we can do there, and now I think I will shift my attention back to developing. So let's bring out the knight and get ready to play knight f6 and maybe castle. And maybe in the future, we'll see about pushing this guy to support this pawn, but right now my bishop's doing a pretty nice job. So we're setting up knight f6. And now that white has developed their pieces, let's see what they're going to do. Oh, okay. That's actually a very nice move. That is a... Wow. I was not expecting to see that move from a 560. So well played to the opponent. They're basically doing quite a few things. 1 and 2, 3, and also taking advantage of this pin. Like this pawn is not doing anything. So even if I take here, they could just jump in and they're all over me. So nice move. It hits my bishop, so I'm kind of limited here. I think I do have to make this trade. And actually, they might have an in-between move here, which is going to cause me some problems. It's a little tricky because there's a fork, but then there's a check, and then I could take, and I don't even know what's going on. Okay, they decided to just capture. All right. So that's probably a bit of a mistake because now I can recapture here, and I don't have to worry about this. So I'm glad to see that. And the pin that I talked about doesn't really do anything now because there's no more pieces left to take this, okay? There's no knight to take it, and there's no rook. And so now it is defended. So I'm happy about that. I think we dodged a bullet there. I feel weird even saying that after what happened to Charlie Kirk. Yeah, I shouldn't. I feel bad like saying that phrase now. It's just like, it's not even funny. Yeah, by the way, to everybody who was mentioning on my stream, I didn't know who he was, and I have seen some of his videos. I did know who he was, but I didn't connect the face to the name. But I'm pretty upset about that. Anyway, sorry guys, I just totally lost my train of thought. Yeah, I was saying I'm glad they didn't take here. That's what I was trying to say. Okay, so yeah, this is smart by the opponent. They're trying to win the pawn, and this is a risk when you push a pawn too far. It can get captured. I don't have a bishop, obviously, so I'm going to push it again, make them figure out a way to win it. Obviously, they can do it. It might take them a couple moves, maybe like that, or maybe they use their queen somehow. But I'll use that time to finish my development, and if I can think of a clever way to defend it, maybe we'll come up with something. And sometimes, by the way, defending, you can defend something by either defending it or by counterattacking, right? So, for example, I'm looking at potentially going here with a fork to maybe just take the attention off of the pawn. Okay, so I don't want to trade too many pieces. I think we need to get the king to safety, though. So let's go ahead and castle. We get out of the pin. And we are going to have to trade at least one piece here if white wants. But that should be okay. If they take here, I think I'll just take with the knight. I don't want to allow this to happen. And remember, when you're down a queen, you need your opponent at some point to make a mistake. So your job in trying to come back in the game is to try as many different tricks as you can. And hopefully one of them works out, right? So that's kind of what we're going to be doing here very soon. Okay, yeah, playing some good moves. Now I'm wondering if we have the ability to fork. So let's say I take, he takes, and I jump in with a fork. Maybe white could be in a position where they might make a mistake. So I'm going to go ahead and set that up. I'll take here because I was going to have too many pieces attacking this. I'll go ahead and capture that. And then I will jump in on e4. Okay, here we go. And another thing to think about is time pressure. When you're playing especially on chess.com, in these relatively lower time control games, like 5 minutes, 10 minutes, that's not a lot of time. I mean, compared to like a 2, 3, 4 hour, chess game in an OTB match. But time pressure is something to think about. Now, you don't want to just make that your go-to, like, oh, I'm just going to try to win on time. No. But if you notice that, okay, your opponent seems to be a slow thinker, they seem to take their time, as the game goes on, you need to monitor that, right? And that's what I'm doing right now. I'm like, okay, wait a second, this guy's under 3 minutes now. There's still a lot of game left to be played, probably, unless I get checkmated here with the queen. And so if they keep taking a lot of time, if I can come up with some tricky moves, that might be something to think about. And so it's not checkmate. What can I do? Well, I could take it, but I don't want to just trade pieces for no reason. Instead, f6, it's a fork, right? This is defended by my bishop. He doesn't have a way to attack here with the queen just yet because you can't go there or there. And so I think we're coming back, and now I'm going to take this with the knight, creating another threat. And again, I'm keeping an eye on that time. Maybe there's a chance where I can either win on time, or what most likely will happen is they will blunder in time pressure, right? as people get lower and lower, they just have to start making quick decisions. And a lot of times they're not the best decisions. So you really want to look for those mistakes as they get lower on time. And I think that's what we're gonna see. I mean, even this was kind of a hard one to see, and not so much a mistake as I just sort of set it up by going there. But also this is kind of nice what's happening here, right? I've got white's rook totally tied down. If they ever move it, I'm threatening to get a queen, so that's a pretty good deal. I didn't even have to move my rook. And so it goes to show you, like, even being up a queen, the game is not over. There's still a lot to be played. Okay, so he takes the pawn. So now we have an interesting decision. And I could make a case for all three of these, honestly. This one comes with a tempo, but it allows the queen to come over and threaten checkmate. Now, I do have knight g5, and I'm sort of holding on, but my position looks a little bit shaky. Taking with the rook is interesting because we attack here, and it leaves my knight at a nice central square. Guess I'm concerned about f3 and where's my knight going to go, though. And so because of that, I think I will take with the knight. I like that it keeps my position very solid. The knight is not going to be a target, and the rook keeps control of the back rank, supports this guy. So, yeah. Also, I'm looking at the time. So I want to just survive at this point. I'm thinking they're going to lose on time or really start making blunders. So I'm going to go with the most solid move I can play. Okay, they play c4. Seems like a decent move. I don't think I want to take it because then the bishop is going to be hitting all kinds of stuff. I think it's better for me to just leave it alone, let them capture here. And in fact, like I said, they're low on time. Can I come up with a tricky move? And I'm seeing a couple of ideas here. So idea number one, swing over to g4. And we hit here and we hit the queen. Now I got to be careful because queen h5, and I don't really like that. The other move is rook a5 because they obviously want to take me here. But if I play rook a5, I stop them from taking me, at least temporarily. So I'm going to do that. Of course, they have good moves. They could go here. They could go here. They could do other things. But a lot of times when you see what your opponent is going to do, right? If you can just stop that one thing, you really put a lot of pressure on them, right? Because most people's brains, they think in terms of like, okay, what's a plan? What's something like, here's a plan. Okay, I'm going to go here and I'm going to capture this pawn. Got it. And once they do that, they're going to be able to do it unless you stop it. And if you stop it, like in this case, it's this awkward moment where they're like, oh, I was going to do that. And now, okay, well, I don't know. And look, my opponent, they're thinking, right? So that's what you want to look to do. So if I can figure out why did he go here? What is he trying to do? This is defended. This is defended. Maybe he wants to come over here, or, can I do something that makes that, makes them hard to do that? So let's see. Like for example, I think now I'll just go back here. The queen is not in a position to attack me over here like it was. And so now I'm going to jump back, causing more problems, right? And again, putting the pressure on my opponent. They've got 40 seconds, 37 seconds, 35 seconds, right? Okay, they move. So what are they trying to do? They're trying to take my rook. So I want to make sure don't lose my rook. Now, I could go for some sacrifice, but no, that doesn't make sense. So where can we move our rook to? Nope. So let's just go back. And look at that. As soon as I moved away, see how fast his move happened? Because that was his plan the whole time, but I stopped it. And I made him spend, however many seconds because I stopped the plan, right? So that's why it's very good to do that. Let's recapture. Opponent only has 30 seconds now. Remember what I said. A lot of times you don't win on time, but they will make blunders in time pressure. He kind of panicked. He's like, I got 30 seconds. I gotta go. He's going for checkmate, but it's a blunder, right? And now I can just take the queen. Okay, and looks like we can just take a pawn. I'm also thinking about this guy. Can I somehow get a queen? So jumping my knight here to defend that looks pretty good. Yeah, I think I'm going to take with the rook, then come over and come down. So let's do that. And I only have 30 seconds, so I do need to kind of pick up the pace a little bit. But the position is very good now that the queen is lost. Okay, attacks my knight. I don't really care. I'm going to stick with my plan. If he trades, I'm happy. So we can pre-move that. And this is pretty much unstoppable. Okay, there's another, obviously mistake. So we can just take that and we get ready to play here. Okay, they do resign. So yeah, good game to our opponent. But I think you really could see, like, just being up a queen, that's not the end. You still have to figure out a way to bust through. And I think that was a great example. Let me do the game review. I think that was a great example when they pushed their pawn of how I was able to stop what they were trying to do. Yeah, I mean, they had the totally winning position for a lot of the game. And we were just patient enough there to come back. But this moment right here, right? This is this is a very good tip when you are losing. You can't solve all the problems. There's no way. They have a queen. Like, it's +5 for white. Okay, it's just a losing position. But what you can do is come up with some clever way to stop them from doing their very next move. And if you can do that, which is what I did, it makes their life difficult. And that, I think, was a critical turning point in this game. We made them spend, how long did they spend here? Yeah, a good 40 seconds trying to figure out a move to play because they really wanted to do this, but they noticed that then they would just lose their bishop. And they're like, what do I do, right? So try to remember that. I think that's one of the best tips for saving a lost position, okay? All right, let's bring up the wheel. Spinning it again. Okay, moving the rook first when castling. All right, so funny story here. I'll remove this one from the wheel. Thank you guys, by the way, for the suggestions. I'll play a new game and I'll tell you the story. So when I was first starting out in chess and I learned about castling, I knew that, you move your king over too and the rook comes around. But I saw a lot of people who would move the rook first and then bring their king over. Or they would get really fancy and they would take the rook, jump it over, capture their own king, and then kind of slide them both over at the same time. It was this cool, whoosh, kind of a thing. And I thought, oh, that's kind of cool. And I think I even tried it a couple games. And then someone told me, hey, that's not how you castle it. Technically, it's a rook move. And I was like, no, really? But that's true. If you try to castle by moving your rook first on chess.com, it's not going to let you castle. It's going to tell you played rook f1. Because that's a legitimate move, right? You could, for whatever reason, want to play rook f1 maybe and not castle. So you have to do it the right way, picking up your king and moving it 2 squares. So this blunder is moving the rook like that. So we'll play some normal moves, and then I will mess it up. I'll bring out this knight. I'm going to just get this other guy out. We will probably attack the queen as well, but we're going to be playing rook f1 here. Yeah, so we'll go ahead and attack the queen. Why not? Okay, then go back, and I'll play bishop e2 and then get ready to castle. So instead of doing it the correct way, I'm going to remove my rook. Now, do I want to deal with this first? Yeah, so a really great move would be like knight g5, forking these guys and then take the pawn, maybe even knight d4. But let's just say I was thinking, okay, I could castle, they take, I take, I could bring my rook over and pin this. Yeah, that seems pretty good, right? Okay. Oh, I wanted to castle, Okay, move the rook. Now my king is stuck in the center, and I lose a knight on top of that. So that's pretty bad. Bishop is stuck. We have to take back this way, or we lose the bishop. So I will do that. All right, so we have a bit of a mess. By the way, one of the best things to do when someone has their queen out early is to get your rook on an open file and line up on it. And so that's actually a very, very significant mistake by not castling. Okay. All right, they bring out the knight. So a little pro tip here, when someone is controlling a square like this, and it's you have a long-range piece that's being blocked by your own pawn, a lot of times the best thing to do is to push that pawn forward to that square because it's defended by the piece, and you've increased the scope of that piece to all of these squares now, right? If I don't play d4 at this moment, and white plays knight d4, guess what? Now I can't go there because pawns still don't capture that way. So you're not only is your pawn stuck, your high value piece is stuck too, which is a really big deal. So what I'm trying to say is I think d4 in this moment is kind of a critical move. And if you don't play that, you play anything else, and you let them play knight d4, you're gonna be regretting that. Okay, so make sure you understand it. Also, we didn't even talk about it, but the bishop comes out, which is great too. So, do I have a fork? Is what I'm thinking about, right? So 1, 2 defenders, 2 attackers, which means I can go there. I'm just kind of scanning, like, does he have any tricky moves somewhere where the queen could attack something else? Not really. I mean, you could come over here, but that's defended. Excuse me. I don't care about this pawn. And so always be scanning for tactics. And here we go. Okay, so he goes there. This is going to allow a trade, but when your king is stuck in the center, trading queens is probably a good thing. Also, I lost a piece earlier, but I'm going to get the piece back now. So then we'll have a relatively equal position, and so I'm okay with the queen trade. Okay, they didn't take it. I don't really want to take them because from a pawn structure standpoint, that doesn't really make sense. So they have really bad pawns, right? These are double isolated pawns, which means they're easy to attack. They are weak. They cannot defend themselves. They can't move. Like this guy is blockading the other guy, so he's stuck. All these things make isolated pawns pretty bad. If I take this, they're no longer isolated. Then there's connected pawns. And then they can push forward and support each other, So I'm going to bring my bishop out, allowing black to take me if they want. Now I'm happy because I get to bring my rook over, which is great because then my rook is going to be the hero in this game, controlling all these squares. Okay, again, same concept of do I want to take here? I don't think so. I don't want to fix their pawns for them. Now, the only exception would be if I had some really cool follow-up move with a check here, but I don't. They could just block, right? So again, I'm not going to take that. I'm going to let them maybe trade into me. Same thing here. If they take me, they fix my pawns. I think I'm going to play queen d2. And I think the priority in this position is fixing my king. Right? I messed up not castling the right way. I think we need to fix that. So I'm thinking we just go queen d2 and we get castled. There might be some other moves like knight e4 that I could have thought about or something else. But let's keep the main thing, get the king to safety. Okay, so he takes me, and exactly like I said, I'm probably going to fix my pawns. Now, you don't always have to focus on pawn structure. Like you can think in terms of, well, maybe I want to go here and put the pressure on and then bring my rook and put the pressure on and try to attack the king. Like there's nothing wrong with thinking that way. But from a positional standpoint, the correct decision would be to take this way. So I'll follow that only because I don't see a clear follow-up here. I think he can just easily block. Game goes on. I still have my bad pawns. So I'd rather fix them while I have the opportunity because those opportunities don't come along all the time. And so I will fix that. By the way, if you're wondering, yes, there's a pawn over here. It's not a priority for me. Like I said, getting the king to safety, I think is a bigger deal than worrying about this guy, right? Also, like going back to earlier when it was under attack, he does take it. That there wasn't a clear and easy way to defend it. I'm not going to bring my rook back to h1. That seems silly. I don't want to go there. Pushing it to h4, I don't know. It just seems like that's not the priority. So I'm going to go ahead and castle. I guess I could technically make the same mistake twice. I could. No, but that seems kind of ridiculous, right? Like we learned our lesson. We figured it out. Okay, we're going to castle the correct way now. And not only do I get my king to safety, but now I have this really amazing battery and I actually have an immediate checkmate threat. So, okay, did they stop my checkmate threat? Obviously, that's you start at the top and you work your way down, right? This is not the top. Sorry, this is not the top of the list. The top of the list is, did they stop my checkmate threat? And I believe the answer is no. So this doesn't matter. This is irrelevant, and I simply will go for checkmate. Okay? So, cool. Good suggestion there. By the way, make sure you guys put a suggestion in the comments so I have things to add to the wheel as we go forward. I appreciate that. Thank you. All right. Let me update the win counter. We're at 25 wins. Yeah, that was a pretty solid game. You saw the big mistake early, and then we kind of clawed our way back into it. So cool. Let me open up the wheel, and here we go. Here we go. Thought it was checkmate. Okay, we'll remove this one. All right, this is a good one. Let me add it over here. I thought it was checkmate. This is a lot of text, but you can read it. And it's upside down. How do you like that? All right, there we go. Okay, I thought it was checkmate. So what does this mean? Basically, set up a checkmate. So attack somewhere around the opponent's king, except it's defended, but I don't notice that it's defended, and I just go for it anyway. All right. So let's see what this is going to look like. We'll play knight c6. Looks like our opponent's going to go for the... Okay, they do not go for the 4-move checkmate. All right. I'll play the 2 knight. Let's see if they know about the fried liver attack. No, they just... Okay. So what could a checkmate be? Knight here and attack with the queen. Yeah, let's set that up. So I'll play knight g4, and I'll try to bring my queen like this. This will be my checkmate. They're stopping me. Maybe I'll sneak over like this. So I'm going for the checkmate. And I have a blind spot to the knight. Basically is what I'm saying. I will be blundering my queen in this one. Okay, they're playing good moves too, so this is going to be a tough one. I can already see this being a tough game after I do this. I mean, look at these moves from the opponent. Well, isn't that interesting? Okay. I have a plan. I'm going to play this is what's called the fishing pole trap, where you sacrifice a piece. The idea is you want to open up your rook so that you can then come in with the queen and deliver checkmate on the h-file. So I'm going to do that, and then I will maybe go to the wrong square where they can take my queen or something. But, okay, they're blundering some stuff. I mean, it's pretty obvious. I think most 500 rated players are going to see that and take the knight. So let's do that. The bishop's also under attack. But I want to go here and then somehow not checkmate, which I don't even see how white is going to be able to get a piece there, which is a bit of a problem. Yeah, so normally when this happens in the fishing pole trap, what you would do is you would want to push this forward at some point. So let me go here. You would want to push this forward to stop the king from escaping. Maybe I'll miss that detail or something. Okay, he takes me. I could take this. I could pretend like I think this is checkmate, and then he gets away. You know what? Here's what I'll do. Oh, I can't do that. It's going to be checkmate. I was going to play g3 and let him trade the queens, but I can't. This is an immediate checkmate. Okay, let me play d5 first, so it's not checkmate, and then maybe the game will go on. All right, so this is a bit of an elaborate setup here, but what we're going to do... Okay, so there's no longer an immediate checkmate threat. I'm going to play g3. I'm setting up checkmate, but I'm overlooking the detail that he can just take my queen, right? So this doesn't work. Now, I don't know if they're going to see that, but let's see. We are setting up the checkmate here. Critical moment for the opponent. Do they notice this or not? I think I was going to say I think they will. Okay, cool. So I messed it up. I didn't see they could take me. I had the opportunity there, but I messed it up. All right. So game goes on. What's the situation? Well, we're down a piece, and we're down some pawns. They have 3, 4, 5, 3, 6. Yeah, they have 7 pawns. I only have 6 pawns. So I'm down a knight and a pawn. And on top of that, they've got massive control in the center, right? Yeah, this is a tough position. They're actually taking advantage of it too, I should point out. So I think we have to go here. The bishop is cutting across my king. If I play I only have 2 legal moves, by the way. If I play c6, this looks very nasty. And I'm going to have to end up playing bishop d7 later anyway, and then I'm going to lose my rook. So I may as well play it first. But after the trade and the rook comes in, yeah, it's not a great position for me. It's really not. Okay, they didn't see that. So we got lucky there. They didn't see that. And I'm going to now scan. And when you're scanning a position, okay, and you're trying to come up with a move, always start with checks. Just always start there because you might have a checkmate. You never know, right? Do I have a checkmate in this position? That's just a check and I get captured. But what about this? Where is that king going to move? No, no, no. You can block. That doesn't help you. You can block. That doesn't help you. You can block, but that really doesn't help you. It gives your king a place to run. But other than that, you're losing a rook. So that's why you always start with the checks. Because you might have a move like this and you don't want to miss it, right? You could have been thinking about something else. Maybe I'll move my rook. Maybe I'll attack some pawns. Maybe I'll threaten a bishop. No, start with the top and work your way down. Checks. Check and checkmate. Captures. Okay, we already talked about this. Of course, I'm going to take it. We have some juicy moves over here, but again, start with the checks, right? So they might keep blocking or they might realize that they have to sacrifice their rook. Let's see. Yeah, they do. Okay. So when I'm trying to decide, this is a moment where you would want to calculate some moves and see what's going to happen in each scenario, right? So for example, if I take with the bishop, this is cut off. He has to move here. I could then go with a check. He has to move here. I could then maybe go with the check. He's gonna run away, and that's where I would kind of stop calculating. I would say, all right, he's gonna get away. Now, it's still good. I got a rook. What if I get a rook this way? He moves, same thing, only move. I come down, check. He moves, and now do you guys see the big difference? Having my pawn there gives me the option to get a queen. Much better than having my bishop there where my pawn is just stuck. Much better. So that's a no-brainer, but the only way I knew that was because I calculated the lines out for both situations, and that's important, right? So we will take with the pawn, then we will go down with the rook. He's going to go here, and guess what? Now I can get the queen. And then now there's going to be a quick checkmate. It's just a question of can I see it? Can I find it? And it's not that difficult if you kind of just think about, okay, where can the king go to? He actually resigns. I was going to say king moves here. You bring the queen over, and the bishop is controlling those knight squares away. It's a common pattern. Okay. Game review. Good game to the opponent. Let's go with 26 wins. Wow. Look at that accuracy. Okay. All right. Let's bring up the blunder wheel again. Here we go. Gambit gone wrong. Okay. So what this means is try to play a gambit, but mess it up somehow. Big time. So let's see if we can figure out what to do. So this one's going to depend a little bit on what our opponent is doing. So let's think about what are some possible gambits that we have here. Ooh, I have a good one. So this is one of the ones that I've been teaching. Let's see if they play c4. No, they play f3. Yikes. Yikes. It's hard to play gambits against random moves that don't really make sense. Well, I guess I could try the same gambit I was going to try. I was going to try the Budapest gambit, where they play c4, you play e5. Let's try it here and see what happens. It might not actually be the worst thing in the world. But okay, so normally when you do this, you would jump over to g4 with your knight to try to take the pawn. So in this particular opening, obviously that's not really so smart, but I'm going to do it anyway. Yeah, and he does take my knight. Okay. And generally when you play this, you'll follow it up with d6, and you'll go with your bishop here. And you want to set up your queen coming to h4. So let's see if we could try that. Okay. So they didn't stop us, and they actually let us go there. So I'm trying to decide. I'm trying to decide something. Okay. Okay, here's what I'll do. There is a trap in the Peter-Patzer Gambit, and I talk about this in the Chess Vibes Academy for those of you who watched the opening lesson. You know what I'm talking about. But there's a trap where you bring your knight here, you sacrifice it, that lures the king out. You then bring your bishop with check, and when they take you, their king has been lured all the way over here, and then you take their queen. Okay? So let's pretend, for whatever reason, in my mind, I thought it's the same situation. I'm going to lure the king out, and I'm going to take the queen. Obviously, you can see that it doesn't work. I just ended up giving up those pieces for no reason. Definitely would say that that's a case of a gambit gone wrong. Okay. Let's talk about the queen trade here. Normally, I would say, yeah, I'm going to trade queen. Now you can't castle. Then I continue with the game. I take your pawn. I bring out my knight. I castle. And I attack you. But in this position, I am down, remember, not just one, but two pieces. When you are down two pieces, you generally don't want to trade too many pieces because you get closer to the end game. And I think that's the case here. I don't want to trade the queens. I want to keep them on the board and give myself a chance to come back. Okay? So sometimes you have to make tough decisions, right? Like this just looks like such a great move. But I'm not going to do it. I'm going to make a practical decision to keep the queens on the board and give myself the best chance to come back. Okay? So queen e7. Knight f3, that's a good move. Let's develop my knight as well and kind of counter some of those central squares. And what I'm really looking to do is hopefully get my rook here. Okay? I don't want to trade. I'm going to play f6. And I like the tempo gain. Okay? Whenever somebody attacks you with a bishop here, if you can block it with a pawn, in a lot of cases, that's a good thing. All right? Let's capture the pawn now. And more importantly, get ready to bring in some more pieces. Okay, so going back to the thought process, right? Like, okay, you always start with like checks and checkmates. Like, is this checkmate? No, he just takes me. Do I have any other checks? No, no, no. Once you finish the checks, make sure you do it for yourself. Like, is he threatening checkmate on me? No, I don't think so. I don't see any other checks. Then you move to the pieces. Can I attack the queen? Is there a tactic on the queen or the rooks? The rook's in the corner, so unless I can get something here, no. This one, no. This one I can attack. So definitely that's a move on my radar. Okay, rook d8. I like that. What about these pieces, though? Now, this one, obviously, I can't get to. This one I can't get to. What about these pieces? Any tactics? Well, yeah. Here's a pawn fork. So now, this is what you should be doing when you're thinking. Obviously, you don't have to take so long. I'm just explaining it. You should have two moves in your mind. 1 and 2. And now you need to evaluate, okay, which one's better? Which one makes the most sense? Well, this is nice. Attacks the queen. It's going to force the queen to move somewhere. And then I could go there next. Or I could go there right away and save this move for later. Now, this is a case where sometimes you have to be careful. Because when you go with a move like this, maybe the move that they play creates a powerful threat that you have to deal with. And if you have to spend time dealing with that powerful threat, guess what? You might not have time to do your fork. So a lot of times it's better to just play the tactic right away. There are cases where the more advanced move would be to play something else first. But in this case, I think we're just going to go with the tactic right away. All right? So let's play g5. So checks, checkmates. Look for just, can you just take any of the pieces, any free pieces? And then this level, the level below that is kind of like, what tactics are available? Forks, pins, skewers, trapped pieces, you know, et cetera, et cetera. Okay. Checks. And by the way, here's an important tip. I just looked in the previous move for checks, checkmates, all that stuff, right? And there was nothing there. Okay. So I don't really have to recheck the whole board. Really, I can check, did this move change anything? Well, what did it? I mean, the knight was controlling here and here. Now it's not. Okay, did that change the checkmate? No. Okay, anything? No, not really. So I can kind of skip a lot of those steps and just focus on the knight, focus on the last move, right? And you could save a lot of time if you do that. So focusing on the last move, obviously, this is a free knight. I'm going to take it. Okay, we still have the attack on the bishop. Let's see where that bishop's going to move. Ooh. Okay, again, focusing on the last move. Does this change anything in relation to the kings, checkmates, free pieces? I want to see that, but it's defended. He might be jumping in, but okay, this is defended. Not really. So since that really doesn't change much, guess what? Take the bishop, right? He takes back. Again, does this change anything? Well, it opens up this diagonal. So maybe it opens up a checkmate. No, it doesn't. I can't get there, and even if I could, the rook would take me. But this is how your brain needs to think. Like, what happened in the last move, and what does that change? These squares are now under control. Does that change anything? Is that threatening? No, not really. But you have to think about it, right? Okay, so which move should my brain probably have in its mind at this moment? The one that I had before is probably a good move. Rook d8. Now's the time. We got past all the other stuff. We got the 2 free pieces. Great. Now we go and we attack the queen. Okay, queen comes out. Again, looking for checks and checkmate, but primarily focusing on what changed about the position. Well, the queen was defending the king. Do I have a checkmate now? No, it's still defended. What about these squares? The queen's not defending. Do I have a checkmate? No, it's still defended, but I'm looking. Okay, what else? This. This is what primarily changes about the position. So all that to say, I don't really see anything jumping out at me like tactic-wise. So now it's probably time to come up with a move. I don't mind a6 because it just takes away some critical squares. I kind of would like to castle because I really want to use this rook. Now it's a little bit risky, but I don't see a way for white to immediately make me pay for that. Also, maybe you could say this is a little bit risky, but I'm prioritizing the fact that now I have both rooks that can attack, right? And yes, he plays it. But I'm basically saying I don't really care. I think I'm going to just tuck my king, be relatively safe. And guess what? Once we get both rooks, the queen, the bishop, the knight, everybody to the party, I think it was worth it. Yeah, it's a little bit scary, my king over here, but I think it was worth it. Ooh. So looking at the last move, does that open up some checks for me? Absolutely. I could really take either way. I like the check, so I'll do it that way. But absolutely, opens up it's a free pawn, it's a check to the king. And guess what? That rook that I just activated, he's coming to the party. We're going to have the queen, both rooks, it's a battery, and this is an awful position for white. Okay, again, you check for checkmates, but we need some more support. So what am I going to do? Bring the support. Now we're going to take that, and it looks like it's over for white, right? Okay. So this is a really interesting position. My general take is start with your own threats first, because if it's your turn and you have checkmate, it doesn't matter. Nothing else matters. So yes, you kind of want to pay attention to this and make sure you identify that it's defended. But even if it wasn't defended, I don't care. I'm always going to start with my own threats and then work my way to my opponent's threat. So do I have check or checkmate? If the answer is no, then I would go, does my opponent have check or checkmate? Maybe, let's see, there's this, there's all kinds of checks. So this would be a scary move if we got to that point. However, as you can see, we don't need to. So we stop the calculation, and that's it. And that's why you go in that order, right? Because if you have checkmate, nothing else matters. So I always want to start with the most important order. If you started with your opponent's threats, you're going to start looking at all this stuff. Oh, he might do this. Well, he might do this. Well, he might do this or this or this or this or oh boy, and then you get overwhelmed. It's like, dude, what are you doing? You have a checkmate. You don't even need, it doesn't even matter. So keep the main thing the main thing. That's what I'm trying to say. Okay. Hope that helps. Let's check the game review. Update the wins. Okay. Fine. Guys, please comment. Please comment with some suggestions for mistakes that you want to see, and try to keep it, related to the rating. So if you're a 600 rated player, like what's something that happens a lot in your games that you're like, man, I wish I would know what to do against this. Just put it in the comments, upvote it, so I can know what to put on the wheel. Okay. Speaking of the wheel, we've got time for another game, I think. Here we go. We've got some quick games this time around, so. Play like a 1 minute game. Okay. So this is this one is tricky because I do play a lot of 1 minute chess. I'm actually very good at playing very fast. And I could easily play a 1 minute game and just destroy my opponents at this level, right? However, I think what they're trying to get at is play really fast early and just make some mistakes because you're playing too quickly. Okay, so that's how I'm gonna interpret it anyway. And I will make some mistakes early because I'm playing just so quickly. So we're just gonna go boom. We're gonna just pre-move this because we don't even care. We're gonna just get some pieces out there. Man, we're gonna attack the queen. And we're going to like pre-move this knight because I don't know why. We just, attack the queen. We're just going so quick. Not a good move. I don't care. I'm just really impatient here. I'm just going to bring this bishop out next right away. Obviously, it's not a good strategy. Like you want to pause. You want to go through the thought process. Do your checks. Because if you don't, you're just going to blunder pieces like I'm blundering pieces. It's going to happen, right? Same thing in that movie that I referenced earlier, Searching for Bobby Fischer, when he was bringing out his queen, and when he ended up losing it, it was a sequence of fast moves. He was just playing quickly, and then bam, he lost his queen, right? That's what happened. Okay, my pre-move got canceled because I'm in check. Let me go here. Quickly, not a smart decision. There's bishop b4. Ooh, opponent didn't see it. Could have played bishop b4. I'll recapture. And then let's just get these moves quickly. We're castling, and we're pre-moving some stuff. I'm playing really good moves, though, so maybe I should play some bad moves. Let's play I feel like we need to do 1 or 2 more blunders, maybe. Let's see, what's a bad move? Let me just take this pawn quickly, because I didn't think about it. Didn't think about it, just capture the pawn. Obviously not smart. Okay, what's the solution if you do this? What's the solution? Slow down. Stop. Okay, 8 moves have passed. We made some mistakes. We're down a couple pieces. Slow down. Get it together. You're going to be fine. All right. I've calmed myself down. I'm going to slow down and think through things now. What do I need to do? Well, I've got some pieces out. That's good. Is this a threat? No, it's defended. This is defended. Okay, cool. So everything's defended. I'm just going to castle. I'm castling queenside because I like my rook. Boom. Immediately going on an open file. So if you have the opportunity to put your rook there, unless there's a reason not to, like maybe your opponent's queen is sitting here and they're going to just come in and checkmate you or something. But otherwise, you should do it. Okay. So checks and captures, but if you've already done it, then you just focus primarily on the opponent's last move. Okay, what does the last move do? They're trying to fork me. How do I stop that? This is interesting because there's also this pawn. So if I bring this rook, I lose that one. But if I bring this one, that seems to make... What if I play f3? Ah, that doesn't actually solve the problem. I still get forked. Do I have any other options? Not really. So, even though it's kind of a weird move, sometimes you got to play what you have available. This is what I have available. Keeps both of my pawns defended. And the nice thing is it's only temporary. I'm not going to leave my rooks defending these pawns forever. It's just for now. And then guess what? I get to chase the knight next move. Not a big deal. Okay, so he's attacking here. So what should I do? Well, I think I'm going to push that pawn to attack the knight. I could also play f3. There's something about f3 that I don't like. What do you guys think it is? So every time you move a pawn, this is really important, guys. If you learn nothing else, learn this. Every time you move a pawn, you create weaknesses because the pawn can never move backwards. So if I push this pawn forward, which square on the board gets permanently weaker? This one. This one. The knight all of a sudden can jump in. And then the bishop can go here and line up on me. And I'm going to have a hard time on these dark squares because this e3 square, bam. If I play h3, do we have the same problem with the g3 square? No, because this pawn is still controlling it. So when you're thinking about which pawn to push forward, try to think about how do I leave most of my squares still covered and make that move, right? That's what we're doing here. So instead of f3, which is not an awful move, I'm going to go with h3. And I leave a nice, variety of squares controlled by my pawns, which is what you want. Keeps the pieces from jumping all over you. Okay, so it's a very subtle thing, but when you understand that, you're gonna just play much better chess. Okay, lots of strong players will try to keep pawns like this because of that reason. Okay, all right. not a bad move. Let's, again, calculate what are they attacking? My bishop. I don't really want to trade because I'm down. But in this case, I don't think I have an option, right? Is there a way to not trade this bishop? Well, I can't go back. He just takes me. He just takes me. He just takes me. Anywhere I go, I just get captured. So I have to just resign myself to the fact that it's going to happen. So then the next question is, okay, it's going to happen. What's the best use of my move? Now, f4 jumps out at me as a potential move to consider. However, based on what I just told you, is there any potential weakness with this move? Yes, and you should have said g3 square. Well, e3 and g3 squares. But what do you notice about the g3 square? Remember, my opponent has 2 knights on the board right here. Well, you should notice the g3 square looks like a fork, right? Okay, so if I play f4, what do you think my opponent is going to do? Well, this is what I'm thinking. They're going to take me with check. They're going to go check, and look at that. You guys see that? Now, that's a little bit advanced for a 600 player. I don't know if they're going to see that, but it doesn't matter. This is how you want to think. You want to be thinking of these things. So even though f4 looks like a cool move, it's actually going to lose me material. Check, and then bam, I get forked. Not what I want to do. So I have to find a different move. And let me give you another bonus tip here. When you're in a situation where there is a knight and it's just kind of constantly threatening to check you and cause you problems, sometimes, I say sometimes, a good amount of the time, the best way to solve that problem, watch this, guys. Move your king. Move your king off of the square so you're no longer going to get checked. Notice what I did there. I just took this move away from my opponent completely. Not only is it not check, I'm controlling it too, but there's no more checks with the knight. Also, look at this. I'm on a white square. There's no checks from the bishop. So I immediately took all those options away from my opponent. And they instantly move here. They just told me that they misclicked. Yeah, I don't know where they were trying to go. Maybe back here or something. Or maybe they didn't even want to move. It just slipped. They're asking if they can return. I don't believe there is any way to do takebacks on chess.com. That'd be a cool feature to have, but because the games are rated and they already have enough problems with cheating and whatnot, you just can't do it. So unfortunately for the opponent, I can't. Okay, so yeah, we're gonna obviously look at the last move and we're gonna take it. But yeah, this moving your king off of the square so that there's no more checks, very powerful idea just to kind of keep in the back of your mind. Okay, so he takes me. Of course, I don't want to just lose the piece for free, and so I will recapture it. All right, so we've gotten a little bit back. Okay, we had a little bit of a mistake. And we're climbing back into the game. And now that we've kind of sorted out the problem with the knights, it's a question of what do we do now? So always be looking for good squares for your pieces. So knight to e4 looks pretty nice for the moment, but if the bishop moves, then d5 might happen. I'm not totally sure about that. Going back to causing your opponents problems, I have my rooks and I have a whole mass of pawns here. So what I'm going to do is try to use those to attack the king. And I'm thinking about playing one of these, well, I'll say one of these 3 moves. Which one do you think I'm going to play first and why? Remember what I said earlier? I think it was earlier in this video. When you have a pawn, and if it gets blockaded, it can no longer move there, and it shuts down everything behind it, right? I do not want to let my opponent's bishop go there. So if I play g4 and they blockade me, now I'm going to have a hard time pushing. So I'm going to play f4 right away, making sure my rook gets active. And these squares are controlled. They can no longer go there. Okay? And now, probably g4, h4, g5, h5, something like this. Yeah, exactly. Now I'll play g4. Okay. What do we do? One move, well, there's multiple moves, but what should I be thinking about, I guess? Well, don't forget about en passant. Seems reasonable. We also could just leave it. These pawns look very nice the way that they are, so we could just leave it and take and then bust open the H file. Or remember this knight I was talking about? Maybe now's the time to take and then jump in with the knight, right? All of these things are what I'm thinking about. So yeah, I think I really like this one. So I'm going to take, keeping my really beautiful pawn chain. I'm going to put my knight on a really nice square where I'm attacking some key things. And yeah, that's not a bad move, actually. So this is really interesting. A couple things to point out. When your opponent's piece is behind your pawns like this and it's defended, you're going to have a hard time getting rid of it unless you can undermine the defense. For example, with h4. The reason that I don't want to play h4 immediately, though, is I'm afraid of f6. And then guess what? Takes. He just replaces it instantly with another pawn, and I'm going to have a hard time. I say that. Maybe it's not that hard to get rid of it. But rather than do that, I think a more powerful move might be f6, or maybe even knight check. And the idea is if I blockade this pawn, then attack here, you can't really support it, and you're really going to have a hard time. So that's kind of what I'm thinking through. It's a little bit of a tricky position, and maybe actually I will just go with the easiest. Yeah, no, I'm going to do this. I'm going to do this. And my idea is if you attack me, I have a fork, okay, which he falls for. But even if he would have gone in the corner, I've blockaded that pawn, and then I was going to push and open up my rook, okay? But now I'm going to go over with the fork, and I'm going to get rid of this annoying bishop, and then I'm going to try to use my pawns. Now I'm still down a piece, so I don't want to trade too much, so maybe actually another move might be h4. So which move will cause my opponent the most problems? That's what I'm trying to figure out. I think this. I think just taking it, getting the pawn storm rolling is probably my best chance. Maybe h4 would have been better. Okay, so he's trying to stop me with the king. I want to play h4, but I can't. So where do I go with my rook? I'm going to go, let's say here. I want to keep this guy defended so I can play h4. I didn't want to give him d5 for free with the tempo and let his bishop out. So that's why I chose this one. Let's go h4, forcing the king back. Let's go rook g1. I have to go faster because I'm losing on time. But I'm going to push. I'm going to basically put all my eggs in the basket of like these pawns are going to win it for me. I'm going to do everything that I can to try to push them forward. Check. It's got support from the rook. And notice how I'm keeping them side by side as best I can so that they can support each other. Okay, that's an interesting move. Maybe a good move. He is attacking me here. Yeah, that's a pretty solid move, actually. I'm going to go here to defend my pawn. And then maybe we'll push and we'll try to sneak this g-pawn down. Also, if we can get a checkmate, like rooks can actually checkmate the king relatively easily if we can get the right setup. Maybe I need my king to help. Because once he gets his bishop out and this other rook into the game, it's going to get a little challenging. Okay, he does take. So do we have a checkmate? I don't think so. Although maybe. If I take this way, I'm losing a pawn. I don't want to lose that pawn. So I'm going to take this way. And I think I am going to try to use my king. I think that's exactly what I'm going to do. So here we go. Let's bring the king over to help. And we do have the king cut off, so there might be a checkmate. Okay, he actually blunders the bishop. So I will take it. Happy to see that. I'll pre-move to save some time. Now, 47 seconds, is it going to be enough? Let's see. I'm going to try to push Harry. I have to watch out for tactics, but you can't go there. I'm going to try to push Harry and cause some problems. Let's keep advancing. King. Okay. Should I trade? Quick decision, yes. Why? Because of Harry. And all I'm going to do is use Harry as a decoy while my king cleans up all the pawns. Okay? It's important that black doesn't create a pass pawn. So I have to be a little careful here. If he could have like pushed these guys and made a pass pawn, but he can't do that. So I'm just going to leave Harry over there. Harry's the hero. And take all the pawns, basically. Or just take enough to get a pass pawn and then just win with that pawn, which is what I'm going to do. Put the king. You want to support all of the squares so you can just safely pre-move it down to a queen. And that's how you keep it easy. And then when you're low on time, the easiest thing is to get another queen. So let's make sure we do that. We take this with check. We take this with check. Let's just put my queen maybe here. Make sure it's a, you create a wall, right? And then you can just push. You can just pre-move. And I like to stop right before and just assess the situation. Make sure it's not a stalemate. It's not, because it's a check. And now I'm going to look for checkmates, but I'm going to do it with check every move because I don't want to stalemate. I'm going to keep bringing my queens closer, but I'm going to check every move. Look, every move is a check. There's no risk of stalemate. And at some point, you're going to see the opportunity for the checkmate. Okay? So I hope that makes sense as a way to close out a game when you're ahead, but you're low on time. All right? Good game to our opponent. They played pretty well. And puts us at 28 wins. Guys, please leave a comment. Let me know what blunders we should do next. By the way, I'm starting something. I don't actually know if I was going to do this video, but I'll go ahead and do it. I have this vase full of pawns. It's about like as tall as my head, to give you an idea. If anybody guesses the exact number of pawns in here, I'll give you something. I don't know what it's going to be yet, but I'll give you something valuable if you can guess. All right. Thank you, guys. Also, comment with the what mistakes do you want me to add to the blunder wheel? Thank you, guys. See you next time. And as always, stay sharp, play smart, take care.